Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt the mood even before anyone said a word? Or maybe you've had dreams that came true later? If so, you might have highly intuitive spiritual powers. These aren't just cool tricks. They're signs that you're more connected to the spiritual world than most people. And guess what? You're not alone. Many people have these abilities, but they often don't realize it. Now you might be thinking, so what if I have these powers? Well, let me tell you, it's a big deal. If you don't know about these signs, you could be missing out on some amazing experiences. You might brush off your intuitions as just random thoughts, or ignore your gut feelings when they're trying to guide you. But if you learn to recognize and use these powers, you could tap into a whole new level of understanding about yourself and the world around you. Imagine being able to make better decisions, connect more deeply with others, and even glimpse bits of the future. Before we dive into the signs, let's talk about what intuitive spiritual powers actually are. These are natural abilities that go beyond our 5 basic senses. They're ways of knowing or understanding things that don't come through our regular channels of sight, sound, touch, taste, or smell. Everyone has some level of these abilities, just like everyone has some level of artistic or athletic ability. But for some people, these powers are stronger and more noticeable. These intuitive powers are connected to our spiritual side, that part of us that feels connected to something bigger than ourselves. It's not about any specific religion or belief system. It's more about being tuned in to the energy and unseen aspects of the world around us. Some people call this having a 6th sense or being psychic. But don't worry. We're not talking about movie-style mind reading or moving objects with your thoughts. These powers are usually much more subtle. They're the little nudges, feelings, or insights that guide us through life when we pay attention to them. Now let's get into the first 3 weird signs that you might have these intuitive spiritual powers. Remember, having one or all of these signs doesn't automatically make you a spiritual guru, but they could be clues that you have some pretty cool abilities waiting to be developed. The first weird sign that you might have intuitive spiritual powers is that you're basically a human mood ring. You know those rings that change color based on your body temperature? Well, you're like that, but for emotions and not just your own. Here's what it looks like. You walk into a room, and before anyone says a word, you can feel the vibe. Maybe you step into your friend's house and instantly know they've had an argument with their partner. Or you join a meeting at work and can tell right away that your boss is stressed about something. This ability is called emotional empathy, and it's a key sign of intuitive spiritual power. It's like you have invisible antennae that pick up on the emotional energy around you. You're not just good at reading facial expressions or body language, although that might be part of it. It's more like you can feel what others are feeling. Why is this a sign of spiritual power? Because it shows you're tuned in to energy that most people can't consciously detect. Emotions are a form of energy, and being able to sense them without obvious clues means you're picking up on subtle spiritual vibrations. Here's a simple example. Let's say you're meeting a friend for coffee. They greet you with a smile and say they're fine, but you get a strong feeling that something's wrong. Later, they confide in you about a problem they've been having. Your intuition was right, even though there were no obvious signs. If you think you might have this power, here's a quick tip to develop it. Practice paying attention to your first impressions when you enter a new space or meet someone new. Don't try to analyze it. Just notice what you feel. Over time, you'll learn to trust these impressions more. Being an emotional empath can be overwhelming sometimes. You might find yourself feeling drained after being in crowds or taking on other people's emotions as your own. But with practice, you can learn to use this power to better understand and help others without getting emotionally swamped yourself. The second weird sign that you might have intuitive spiritual powers is that your dreams sometimes come true. No, we're not talking about becoming a millionaire overnight, although wouldn't that be nice? We're talking about those times when you dream about something and then a similar thing happens in real life. This ability is often called precognitive dreaming, and it's another key sign of intuitive spiritual power. It's like your subconscious mind is peeking into the future while you sleep. Here's what it might look like. You dream about an old friend you haven't seen in years, and the next day they call you out of the blue. Or you dream about a place you've never been, and then you see that exact place in a movie or book a few days later. Sometimes these dreams might be about bigger events, like dreaming about a natural disaster before it happens. Now, why is this a sign of spiritual power? Because it suggests you're tapping into information that's not available through your normal senses. It's like your spirit is reaching across time to bring you glimpses of what's to come. Let's look at a simple example. Say you dream about breaking a blue vase. In the dream, you feel really upset about it. A week later, you're at a store and you accidentally knock over a blue vase. As it crashes to the floor, you get a strong sense of deja vu. That's your precognitive dream power in action. If you think you might have this ability, here's a quick tip to develop it. Start keeping a dream journal. Every morning when you wake up, write down what you remember from your dreams, even if it seems silly or doesn't make sense. Over time, you might start noticing connections between your dreams and real-life events. It's important to remember that precognitive dreams aren't usually exact replays of future events. They're often symbolic or have elements that don't quite match up with reality. The key is to look for the core elements or feelings that do match. Also, don't freak out if you have a scary dream. Not all dreams are predictions, and even if they are, the future isn't set in stone. Think of these dreams as helpful hints from your intuition, not unchangeable fate. The third weird sign that you might have intuitive spiritual powers is that you're like a human lie detector. You have an uncanny ability to tell when someone's not being truthful, even if you can't explain how you know. This ability is often called truth sensing or discernment, and it's a powerful intuitive skill. It's like you have an internal alarm that goes off when someone's words don't match their true intentions or feelings. Here's what it might look like in action. Someone tells you a story, and even though it sounds perfectly believable, you get a strong feeling that something's off. Or you're watching a news report, and you can tell that the person being interviewed isn't being entirely honest, even if you don't know the full story. Why is this a sign of spiritual power? Because you're picking up on subtle cues that go beyond just words or body language. You're tuning into the energy of truth itself. It's like you can feel the discord between what someone's saying and what's really true. Let's look at a simple example. Your friend tells you they're totally over their ex and ready to date again. They sound convincing, and they're smiling and laughing. But something in you just knows they're not being honest with themselves or you. A few weeks later, they admit they're still struggling to move on. Your truth-sensing power was spot on. If you think you might have this ability, here's a quick tip to develop it. Start paying attention to how you feel when people are talking to you. Do you get any physical sensations, like a tightness in your chest, or a fluttery feeling in your stomach, when you sense someone might not be telling the whole truth? These bodily sensations can be clues from your intuition. It's important to use this power responsibly. Just because you sense someone might not be telling the whole truth doesn't mean they're a bad person or trying to deceive you. Sometimes people hide the truth because they're scared, unsure, or trying to protect someone's feelings. Your job isn't to call them out or force the truth, but to use this information to better understand and navigate your interactions. Also remember that this power isn't about mind reading. You're not actually knowing what someone is thinking. You're just getting a sense of whether their words align with their true feelings or intentions. Developing this power can make you a great friend and confidant. People might find themselves opening up to you because they sense that you really see them. You might also find yourself drawn to jobs or hobbies where understanding the truth is important, like counseling, journalism, or even detective work. As you develop this ability, you might start to notice patterns in how dishonesty feels versus honesty. Lies often have a heavy, sticky feeling to them, while truth feels clean and clear. With practice, you'll get better at distinguishing these sensations. One thing to be careful of with this power is not to become overly suspicious. Just because you have the ability to sense untruths doesn't mean everyone is lying all the time. Most people are generally honest in their day-to-day interactions. Use your power as a tool for understanding, not for judging others. You might also find that this ability makes you value honesty even more in your own life. As you become more attuned to the energy of truth, you might feel a stronger urge to be truthful yourself, even in small things. This can lead to more authentic relationships and a stronger sense of integrity. Remember, like all intuitive powers, truth sensing isn't always 100% accurate. It's a tool to use alongside your logical thinking, not a replacement for it. If you get a strong sense that someone's not being truthful about something important, it's okay to seek more information or to be cautious. But always balance your intuitive feelings with facts and evidence. Developing this power can also help you become more compassionate. As you start to sense when people aren't being fully truthful, you might also start to understand why. Maybe they're afraid, or trying to avoid hurting someone's feelings, or they're not being honest with themselves. This understanding can help you respond with kindness rather than judgment. In some cases, you might find that your truth-sensing ability extends beyond just detecting lies. You might start to pick up on when people are hiding their true feelings or when they're not being authentic. This can be really helpful in building deeper, more meaningful relationships. You might become the friend that people turn to when they need someone to really see and understand them. As you develop this power, you might also find that it helps you make better decisions in your own life. When you're trying to decide about something important, you can use your truth-sensing ability to check in with yourself. Does this decision feel true to you, or does it give you that same off feeling you get when someone's not being honest? This can be a powerful tool for staying true to yourself and your own path. It's also worth noting that this ability can sometimes make you feel a bit isolated. You might notice things that others don't, which can be frustrating or lonely at times. It's important to find ways to ground yourself and to connect with others who understand or share these abilities. Lastly, remember that having this ability doesn't mean you always have to act on it. Sometimes, the kindest thing to do is to let someone keep their secret, especially if it's not harming anyone. Your intuitive powers are tools to help you navigate life, not weapons to use against others. As we wrap up our discussion of these first 3 signs of intuitive spiritual powers, it's important to remember that these abilities are not about being better than others. They're tools for understanding, connecting, and navigating the world in a deeper way. Whether you resonate with 1, 2, or all 3 of these signs, the key is to approach them with curiosity, respect, and a willingness to learn. These powers, being an emotional empath, having precognitive dreams, and sensing truth, are just the beginning. There are many other signs and abilities that might indicate you have intuitive spiritual powers. The most important thing is to stay open, pay attention to your experiences, and trust your instincts. Developing your intuitive spiritual powers is a journey, not a destination. It's about growing, learning, and becoming more attuned to the subtle energies around us. It's about deepening your understanding of yourself and others and finding your place in the bigger picture of life. Remember, everyone has some level of intuitive ability. If you've recognized yourself in these signs, it doesn't mean you're weird or different. It means you're tapping into abilities that we all have to some degree. The more you acknowledge and work with these abilities, the stronger they can become. As you continue to explore and develop your intuitive spiritual powers, be patient with yourself. These abilities often grow slowly over time with practice and attention. Don't get frustrated if you're not always accurate or if your abilities seem to come and go. That's all part of the process. It's also important to take care of yourself as you develop these powers. Being more sensitive to energy, emotions, and unseen information can sometimes be overwhelming. Make sure to take time to ground yourself, to rest, and to engage in activities that make you feel centered and balanced. You might want to look for ways to learn more about intuitive spiritual powers. There are books, courses, and workshops that can help you understand and develop your abilities. You might also want to connect with others who have similar experiences. Having a community can be really helpful as you explore this part of yourself. Remember, the goal of developing your intuitive spiritual powers isn't to predict the future or read people's minds. It's about becoming more aware, more connected, and more in tune with the world around you. It's about living a more conscious, intentional life. As you continue on this path, you might find that your intuitive powers bring new depth and richness to your life. You might discover new ways of helping others, of expressing yourself, or of understanding the world. You might find yourself drawn to new interests or career paths that allow you to use your abilities. Most importantly, trust yourself. Your intuition is unique to you. what it tells you, and how it communicates might be different from anyone else's experience. Learn to listen to that quiet voice inside, to trust those gut feelings, and to follow where your intuition leads you. Developing your intuitive spiritual powers is a deeply personal journey. It's about becoming more fully yourself and more deeply connected to the world around you. It's about opening up to new possibilities and new ways of experiencing life. So, if you've recognized yourself in these signs of intuitive spiritual powers, congratulations. You're at the beginning of an exciting journey of self-discovery and growth. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep trusting your intuition. Who knows where it might lead you? Have you ever experienced a string of coincidences so unlikely that you couldn't help but feel they meant something? If so, you might be experiencing synchronicities, and it's the fourth weird sign that you possess highly intuitive spiritual powers. Synchronicities are meaningful coincidences that seem to defy logical explanation. It's like the universe is winking at you, sending you little messages through seemingly random events. People with strong intuitive powers often find that these synchronicities happen to them more often than to others. Here's what it might look like. You're thinking about an old friend, and suddenly they call you out of the blue, or you keep seeing the same number everywhere, on clocks, license plates, receipts. Maybe you randomly open a book to find exactly the advice you needed at that moment. Why is this a sign of spiritual power? Because it suggests you're in tune with the underlying patterns of the universe. It's like you're picking up on a hidden language of symbols and coincidences that most people miss. Let's look at a simple example. Say you're struggling with a big decision about whether to move to a new city. Suddenly you start noticing references to that city everywhere. In conversations, on TV shows, even in random graffiti, it's like the universe is trying to get your attention and guide you. If you think you might have this ability, here's a quick tip to develop it. Start keeping a synchronicity journal. Write down any coincidences or meaningful patterns you notice. Over time, you might start to see even more connections and patterns in your life. It's important to remember that not every coincidence is a synchronicity. The key is the meaning. If it feels significant to you, it probably is. Trust your gut feeling about what's meaningful and what's just random chance. Experiencing lots of synchronicities can be exciting, but it can also be confusing. You might find yourself wondering what all these signs mean. Remember, the point isn't to obsess over every little coincidence, but to stay open to guidance and to trust your intuition about what's important. As you become more aware of synchronicities, you might find that they often provide comfort or guidance when you need it most. They can be like little nudges from the universe, helping you feel connected and supported on your life path. Synchronicities can also be a way for your intuition to communicate with you. Sometimes, when your conscious mind is stuck on a problem, your deeper intuitive self might use synchronicities to point you in the right direction. It's like your intuition is speaking to you through the events of your everyday life. One interesting thing about synchronicities is that they often increase when you're going through major life changes or spiritual growth. It's like the universe is cheering you on, letting you know you're on the right track. So if you suddenly start experiencing more synchronicities, it might be a sign that you're in a period of significant personal development. Remember, the goal isn't to try to force synchronicities to happen or to read too much into every little coincidence. Instead, It's about staying open and aware and trusting your intuition about what's meaningful. The more you notice and appreciate synchronicities, the more you might find they occur in your life. The fifth weird sign that you might have intuitive spiritual powers is experiencing unexplainable physical sensations. These are bodily feelings that don't seem to have any obvious physical cause, but that often correspond to spiritual or energetic experiences. This ability is sometimes called clair-sentience, which means clear feeling. It's like your body is an antenna, picking up on energies and information that your 5 regular senses can't detect. Here's what it might look like. You might feel a tingling sensation on the top of your head when you're meditating or thinking deeply. Or you might feel a warmth in your hands when you're trying to help or heal someone. Some people feel a fluttering in their stomach when they're about to receive important news. Why is this a sign of spiritual power? Because it shows that you're sensitive to subtle energies that most people can't consciously feel. Your body is acting as a tool for your intuition, giving you physical signals about non-physical information. Let's look at a simple example. You're about to enter a room, and suddenly you feel a heaviness in your chest. When you go in, you find that there's been an argument and the atmosphere is tense. Your body was picking up on the energy of the room before you consciously knew what was happening. If you think you might have this ability, here's a quick tip to develop it. Start paying attention to your body sensations throughout the day. Notice if you get any unusual feelings, especially when you're in new situations or around different people. Over time, you might start to recognize patterns in these sensations. It's important to remember that while these sensations can be signs of your intuitive abilities, they can also sometimes be signs of physical health issues. If you're experiencing persistent or concerning physical sensations, it's always a good idea to check with a doctor to rule out any medical causes. Developing your clairsentient abilities can be really helpful in many areas of life. You might find that you become more in tune with your own body's needs, helping you make better decisions about your health and well-being. You might also become more sensitive to the needs of others, making you a more empathetic friend or partner. Some people with strong clairsentient abilities find that they're naturally drawn to healing professions. They might become massage therapists, energy healers, or even medical professionals. Their ability to sense subtle physical energies can be a powerful tool in helping others. As you develop this ability, you might find that different parts of your body correspond to different types of intuitive information. For example, some people feel intuitive hits as a tightness in their throat, while others might feel them as a tingling in their hands. Getting to know your own unique intuitive map can help you interpret these sensations more accurately. One thing to be aware of with this ability is that it can sometimes be overwhelming, especially in crowded or emotionally charged environments. You might find yourself picking up on everyone's energy and feeling physically drained as a result. Learning grounding techniques and energy protection methods can be really helpful in managing this sensitivity. Remember, like all intuitive abilities, clairsentience is a tool to use alongside your logical thinking, not a replacement for it. If you get a strong physical sensation about something, it's okay to pay attention to it, but also consider other information and evidence before making important decisions. As you become more aware of these physical sensations, you might find that they add a whole new dimension to your experiences. You might start to literally feel the energy of a beautiful piece of music or sense the mood of a room as soon as you enter it. This can lead to a richer, more vibrant experience of life. The sixth weird sign that you might have intuitive spiritual powers is having a particularly strong connection with nature. This goes beyond just enjoying a walk in the park or liking animals. It's a deep, almost communication-like connection with the natural world. This ability is sometimes called nature attunement or earth empathy. It's like you can feel the pulse of the earth and understand the silent language of plants and animals. Here's what it might look like. You might feel a strong urge to go outside right before a storm hits, or you might have a special way with plants, knowing exactly what they need to thrive. Some people find that animals are naturally drawn to them, even usually shy or aggressive ones. Why is this a sign of spiritual power? Because it shows that you're tuned into the rhythms and energies of the natural world in a way that goes beyond ordinary perception. You're tapping into the interconnectedness of all living things. Let's look at a simple example. You're on a hike and suddenly get a strong feeling to stop and change direction. Later, you find out that there was a dangerous animal or unstable ground where you would have been heading. Your intuition was picking up on information from the environment that you couldn't consciously see or hear. If you think you might have this ability, here's a quick tip to develop it. Spend more time in nature, but do it mindfully. When you're outside, really pay attention to your surroundings. Notice the plants, the insects, the way the air feels. Try to sense the energy of the place you're in. People with a strong nature connection often find that they feel most at peace and energized when they're outdoors. You might feel like you can think more clearly, or that your other intuitive abilities are stronger when you're in natural settings. This connection with nature can manifest in various ways. Some people might be able to predict weather changes based on subtle signs they pick up from plants or animals. Others might have an uncanny ability to find water sources or identify edible plants, even without formal training. Many people with this ability feel a strong urge to protect the environment. They might be drawn to careers in ecology, conservation, or environmental science. Their intuitive understanding of nature's needs can make them powerful advocates for the planet. As you develop this ability, you might find that different natural settings affect you in different ways. A forest might feel nurturing and peaceful, while the ocean might feel invigorating and full of possibility. Getting to know how different environments impact you can help you use nature as a tool for self-care and personal growth. One interesting aspect of this ability is that it can sometimes extend to urban environments too. You might find that you're very sensitive to the energy of different buildings or city spaces. You might be able to sense the history of a place or feel the collective energy of the people who live or work there. It's worth noting that this strong connection with nature doesn't mean you'll never have negative experiences outdoors. You might still get sunburned or caught in the rain. But you might find that you're more in tune with the rhythms of nature, better able to prepare for and adapt to natural events. As you become more aware of your connection with nature, you might start to see the world in a different way. You might become more aware of the interconnectedness of all things, seeing how changes in one part of the ecosystem affect everything else. This can lead to a profound sense of responsibility and care for the planet. Remember, having a strong nature connection doesn't mean you have to become a full-time outdoors person or move to the wilderness. It's about recognizing and nurturing your innate connection to the natural world wherever you are. Even if you live in a city, you can strengthen this connection by tending to houseplants, visiting parks, or even just paying more attention to the sky and weather patterns. Developing this ability can bring a deep sense of peace and belonging. When you're attuned to nature, you might feel a profound sense of being home wherever you go in the natural world. This connection can be a powerful source of comfort and guidance in your life. As with all intuitive abilities, it's important to balance your nature connection with practical knowledge and common sense. While your intuition might guide you in nature, it's still important to learn about outdoor safety, respect for wildlife, and leave no trace principles. Your strong connection with nature might also make you more sensitive to environmental changes and issues. You might find that you're deeply affected by news about climate change or habitat destruction. While this can be painful, it can also be a powerful motivator to take action and make a difference. Many people with this ability find that they're drawn to natural healing methods like herbal medicine or nature therapy. Your intuitive understanding of the natural world might give you insights into how nature can be used for healing and wellness. As you continue to develop this connection, you might find that nature becomes a powerful teacher in your life. You might gain profound insights about life, death, growth, and change just by observing the natural cycles around you. The changing seasons, the growth of plants, the behaviors of animals, all of these can offer deep lessons if you're attuned to them. Remember, this connection with nature is a two-way street. As much as you might gain from nature, you also have something to give back. Your sensitivity to the needs of the natural world makes you a powerful ally for the environment. Whether it's through conservation efforts, sustainable living practices, or simply sharing your love of nature with others, you have the potential to make a real difference. Ultimately, a strong connection with nature can be a profound source of spiritual growth and personal development. It can help you feel more grounded, more connected to something larger than yourself, and more in tune with the rhythms of life. By nurturing this connection, you're not just developing your intuitive powers, you're deepening your relationship with the world around you and with your own inner nature. The seventh weird sign that you might have intuitive spiritual powers is experiencing vivid visions or sudden flashes of insight. This isn't about having a good imagination. It's about receiving clear mental images or ideas that seem to come out of nowhere, often providing information or guidance. This ability is sometimes called clairvoyance, which means clear seeing. It's like having a mental screen where images or scenes can play out, giving you information that you couldn't have known through your regular senses. Here's what it might look like. You might suddenly see a clear image in your mind of a place you've never been, only to visit it later and find it exactly as you saw it. Or you might have a sudden knowing about a situation, complete with visual details, that later turns out to be accurate. Why is this a sign of spiritual power? Because it suggests you're able to access information beyond your physical senses and conscious mind. You're tapping into a broader field of knowledge or consciousness. Let's look at a simple example. You're thinking about a friend, and suddenly you have a vivid mental image of them standing by a red car, looking upset. Later, you find out they had car trouble that day with their new red vehicle. Your intuition was giving you a visual representation of their situation. If you think you might have this ability, here's a quick tip to develop it. Practice visualization exercises. Spend time each day imagining a peaceful scene in as much detail as possible. This can help strengthen your mind's eye and make it easier to receive and interpret intuitive visions. It's important to note that these visions or insights often come spontaneously. They might pop into your head when you're doing something completely unrelated, like washing dishes or taking a shower. Learning to pay attention to these moments can help you develop this ability further. People with strong clairvoyant abilities often find they're good at creative visualization techniques. They might excel at sports or performance arts where visualizing success is important. They might also be drawn to visual arts, finding that they can sometimes see their creations in their mind before bringing them into physical form. As you develop this ability, you might find that your visions come in different ways. Some people see clear, movie-like scenes. Others might get more symbolic images that require interpretation. Some might not see images at all, but instead have a sudden, clear understanding as if they're seeing the answer to a problem. One thing to be aware of with this ability is that it can sometimes be confusing or overwhelming. You might see images or get insights that you don't immediately understand. It's important to be patient with yourself and to keep a record of your visions or insights. Often, their meaning becomes clear with time. Remember, like all intuitive abilities, clairvoyance isn't about being 100% accurate all the time. It's a tool to use alongside your logical thinking and other forms of information gathering. If you get a strong vision about something, it's okay to pay attention to it, but also consider other evidence and viewpoints before making important decisions. As you become more comfortable with this ability, you might find that it adds a rich new dimension to your life. You might gain insights into situations that help you navigate challenges more easily. You might find that your creativity is enhanced, with new ideas flowing more freely. You might even discover that you can use this ability to help others, providing insights or guidance that can make a real difference in their lives. The eighth weird sign that you might have intuitive spiritual powers is being highly sensitive to energy. This goes beyond just being emotionally sensitive. It's about being able to feel and sometimes even see the energy fields around people, places, and things. This ability is often called being an empath or having energy sensitivity. It's like you have an extra sense that allows you to perceive the subtle energy that everything is made of. Here's what it might look like. You might walk into a room and immediately feel the vibe, whether it's positive or negative. You might be able to sense when someone is upset, even if they're trying to hide it. Some people with this ability even report seeing auras, colorful energy fields around people and objects. Why is this a sign of spiritual power? Because it shows you're tuned into the subtle energetic levels of reality that most people aren't consciously aware of. You're perceiving a layer of existence that goes beyond the physical. Let's look at a simple example. You're at a party, and you suddenly feel drained and uncomfortable. You realize there's someone in the room who seems friendly on the surface, but you can sense negative energy coming from them. Later, you find out this person was involved in some drama or conflict. If you think you might have this ability, Here's a quick tip to develop it. Practice energy sensing exercises. Start with your hands, rub them together, then slowly move them apart and see if you can feel the energy between them. With practice, you might be able to extend this sensing ability to people and environments. People who are highly sensitive to energy often find that they need more alone time than others. Being around lots of people or in busy environments can be overwhelming because they're picking up on so much energetic information. Learning to ground and protect your own energy becomes really important. As you develop this ability, you might find that you become more aware of how different places, people, and even objects affect your energy. You might notice that certain crystals or plants seem to have a positive effect on you, while some environments leave you feeling drained. One interesting aspect of energy sensitivity is that it can extend to picking up on past events in a location. Some people find they can sense the history of a place, picking up on emotional residues from things that happened there long ago. It's important to remember that being sensitive to energy doesn't mean you have to take on everyone else's energy. Learning to distinguish between your own feelings and the energy you're picking up from others is a crucial skill. Techniques like visualization, grounding, and energy clearing can help you manage this sensitivity. As you become more aware of energy, you might find that you're drawn to practices that work with subtle energy, like Reiki, acupuncture, or Qigong. You might discover that you have a natural ability for energy healing or space clearing. Remember, being sensitive to energy can be both a gift and a challenge. While it can give you valuable insights and help you navigate situations more effectively, it can also be overwhelming at times. Learning to manage and direct your sensitivity is key to using this ability in a positive way. The ninth weird sign that you might have intuitive spiritual powers is experiencing frequent or intense feelings of deja vu. This goes beyond the occasional, "I feel like I've been here before" sensation that everyone gets from time to time. For people with strong intuitive abilities, deja vu can be a regular and powerful experience. Deja vu is that uncanny feeling that you're reliving a moment, even though you know it's happening for the first time. It's like your present experience is overlapping with a memory, but a memory of something that hasn't happened yet. Here's what it might look like. You might be in a conversation with someone and suddenly have the strong sensation that you've had this exact conversation before in the same place with the same person. Or you might visit a new place and feel like you know exactly what's around the next corner, even though you've never been there before. Why is this a sign of spiritual power? Because it suggests that your consciousness isn't entirely bound by linear time. You might be picking up on information from other points in time, past, future, or even parallel realities. Let's look at a simple example. You're walking down a street you've never been on before, and suddenly you have a strong feeling of deja vu. You know that there's going to be a blue door around the next corner, and when you turn the corner, there it is. It's like you're remembering a future that hasn't happened yet. If you think you might have this ability, here's a quick tip to develop it. When you experience deja vu, don't brush it off. Pay attention to the details of what feels familiar. Try to follow the feeling and see if you can anticipate what might happen next. Keep a journal of these experiences and look for patterns over time. People who experience a lot of deja vu often report feeling like they're living their life for the second time. They might have a sense of knowing what's going to happen before it does. or feeling like they've already learned lessons that they're just now encountering in their current life. As you become more aware of your deja vu experiences, you might start to notice that they often occur at significant moments in your life. They might happen when you're making important decisions or meeting people who will play a big role in your life. Paying attention to these moments can help guide you on your path. One interesting theory about deja vu is that it might be a glimpse of parallel realities or alternate timelines. Some people believe that when we experience deja vu, we're briefly aligning with a version of ourselves in another reality where we've already lived through that moment. It's important to remember that while deja vu can be a sign of intuitive abilities, it doesn't mean you can predict the future with certainty. Think of it more as a nudge from your intuition, pointing out moments or situations that might be significant. As you develop this awareness, you might find that your deja vu experiences become more vivid or meaningful. You might start to receive more detailed information or insights during these moments. Some people even report being able to use their deja vu experiences as a form of guidance, helping them make decisions or avoid potential problems. Remember, experiencing deja vu doesn't mean you're stuck in a predetermined fate. Even if you feel like you've lived through a moment before, you always have the power to make choices and influence your path. Deja vu can be seen as a tool for increasing your awareness and making more conscious decisions. The 10th and final weird sign that you might have intuitive spiritual powers is having a sense of unexplainable knowing. This is often called claircognizance, which means clear knowing. It's like having an inner Google. You just know things without knowing how you know them. This ability is different from the other intuitive powers we've discussed because it doesn't come through visions, feelings, or sensations. It's a direct download of information into your mind. Here's what it might look like. You might suddenly know the answer to a problem you've been struggling with, without going through any logical steps to figure it out. Or you might have a strong sense about a person or situation, even if you have no prior information about it. Why is this a sign of spiritual power? Because it suggests you have access to a field of knowledge beyond your personal experience or logical mind. It's like tapping into a universal database of information. Let's look at a simple example. You're trying to decide whether to take a new job offer. Suddenly, you just know that it's not the right move, even though on paper it looks perfect. Later, you find out the company was about to go through major upheavals that would have made the job very difficult. If you think you might have this ability, here's a quick tip to develop it. Practice trusting your first impressions. When you meet someone new or enter a new situation, pay attention to any immediate knowings you have. Don't try to analyze them. Just note them down and see how accurate they turn out to be over time. People with strong claircognizance often find that they're good at problem solving and decision making. They might be the person that others come to for advice because they seem to always know what to do. They might also excel in fields that require quick, accurate judgments, like emergency response or business strategy. As you develop this ability, you might find that your knowings come in different ways. Sometimes it might be a sudden realization, like a light bulb going off in your mind. Other times, it might be a quiet, persistent thought that doesn't go away until you act on it. One interesting aspect of claircognizance is that it often provides information that seems random or unrelated at the time, but later turns out to be important. you might find yourself compelled to learn about a topic or visit a place for no apparent reason, only to discover later that this knowledge or experience was crucial for something in your life. It's important to remember that while this ability can be very accurate, it's not infallible. It's still important to use your logical mind and gather factual information, especially for important decisions. Think of claircognizance as an additional tool in your decision-making toolkit, not a replacement for critical thinking. As you become more aware of your claircognizant abilities, you might find that you're able to access this knowing more easily and reliably. You might discover that you can intentionally tap into this ability when you need guidance or information. Remember, having this ability doesn't mean you know everything or that you're always right. It's an intuitive tool that can provide valuable insights and guidance, but it's still important to remain humble and open to learning from others and from your experiences. As we wrap up our exploration of these 10 weird signs of intuitive spiritual powers, it's important to remember that these abilities are not about being special or better than others. They're tools for understanding, connecting, and navigating the world in a deeper way. Whether you resonate with one, several, or all of these signs, the key is to approach them with curiosity, respect, and a willingness to learn. These powers, from being an emotional empath and experiencing synchronicities, to having vivid visions and unexplainable knowing, are all different ways that our intuition can communicate with us. They're like different languages that our higher self or the universe might use to guide us and help us understand the world around us. Developing your intuitive spiritual powers is a journey, not a destination. It's about growing, learning, and becoming more attuned to the subtle energies and information around us. It's about deepening your understanding of yourself and others and finding your place in the bigger picture of life. Remember, everyone has some level of intuitive ability. If you've recognized yourself in these signs, it doesn't mean you're weird or different. It means you're tapping into abilities that we all have, to some degree. The more you acknowledge and work with these abilities, the stronger they can become. As you continue to explore and develop your intuitive spiritual powers, be patient with yourself. These abilities often grow slowly over time, with practice and attention. Don't get frustrated if you're not always accurate or if your abilities seem to come and go. That's all part of the process. It's also important to take care of yourself as you develop these powers. Being more sensitive to energy, emotions, and unseen information can sometimes be overwhelming. Make sure to take time to ground yourself, to rest, and to engage in activities that make you feel centered and balanced. You might want to look for ways to learn more about intuitive spiritual powers. There are books, courses, and workshops that can help you understand and develop your abilities. You might also want to connect with others who have similar experiences. Having a community can be really helpful as you explore this part of yourself. Remember, the goal of developing your intuitive spiritual powers isn't to predict the future or read people's minds. It's about becoming more aware, more connected, and more in tune with the world around you. It's about living a more conscious, intentional life. As you continue on this path, you might find that your intuitive powers bring new depth and richness to your life. You might discover new ways of helping others, of expressing yourself, or of understanding the world. you might find yourself drawn to new interests or career paths that allow you to use your abilities. Most importantly, trust yourself. Your intuition is unique to you.